Time now for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. Starting with President Muhammadu Buhari, who was at the May 6th coronation of King Charles III, and in the wake of that event, changed plans to immediately return to Nigeria. The Nigerian leader instead decided to stay back in London for a belated appointment with his dentist for a protracted complaint. That decision has been provoking diverse reactions across the polity. In a related development, President-elect Bola Tinubu had earlier traveled out to begin to engage foreign investors ahead of his planned inauguration on May the 29th, and that's according to a press statement issued by his handlers Bayo Ononuga and Festus Keyamo. The statement branded Tinubu's sojourn a walking trip, with the development also triggering a wave of reactions back home in Nigeria. Now, I think first off, I want to say I've not seen you I didn't see you last weekend, so it's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Shaitan.
You know,
how was London?
London was
Great,
good. You can greet me like this now. You know, President Muhammadu Buhari was also in London last week, attending the coronation of King Charles, which, you know, all is fine. We are part of the Commonwealth. There is a certain responsibility for a state leader to go there and show, show his allegiance to the United Kingdom. But, you know, what is really triggering a lot of Nigerians is the fact that this statement has come out that the president, even though he has only about, 10 days left in office, the outgoing president has decided to stay back in the UK to see his dentist. What does that say to, you know, the medical space that we have now in Nigeria? You know, a dentist appointment, if our president could have, you would have to change his, inner workings just to stay back to see a dentist, then what should the common man do? And then we're looking at the president-elect, who has also released a statement saying that he was going on a working trip. For him, he still has about 10 days to prepare, and there's this train of thoughts that he's hitting the ground running. He doesn't have to be in Nigeria to start, putting things together. He's already moved, into the State House. There was even a video yesterday where we saw Aisha Buhari kind of welcoming Remi Tinubu, showing her around. So we're seeing this transitionary stage. Yeah. So when comparing to, in a way, I see, okay, the president-elect doesn't necessarily need to be here. But when you think about President Muhammadu Buhari staying back to see a dentist, there's no dentist in Nigeria that can attend to our president?
Well, I mean, Shaitan, the president will not have surprised anybody with what he has chosen to do with his health. Because if you remember, this is how he started his administration, more or less. There was a time that he had to go abroad, usually in the UK, for air issues that he had. And people have also calculated the number of days that he has spent abroad for medical reasons as something of a record-breaking for any Nigerian president ever. But hey, this is an 80-year-old man. We have a fair idea of the things that he has always been dealing with. Many people will say that we never knew that maybe a toothache or something, will be part of it. But I mean, a 40-year-old could have health issues. A 50-year-old could have health issues. Not to talk of an 80-year-old. But then, what does that say about his legacy as far as health institution of Nigeria is concerned, and the things that we are battling with in Nigeria? I think everybody is more or less agreed that little credit will go to this administration as far as the need to reverse medical tourism is concerned. And that question is very important, because people would say that if you're not able to use the facilities that you vote billions of naira for in Abuja, and not to talk of other facilities that are privately owned, like the one that the vice president, his own vice president, Yemi Osinbajo, used when he had to undergo a surgery, and the entire country applauded the fact that, he chose to use a a local medical facility, and it went very well. But hey, here we have the president, and I think that it's been said to Nigerians, several times that, that's his choice. It is the country that is picking the bills, and that maybe if he feels more comfortable with the doctors that he has used over time in the UK, that we should allow him. That is coming to an end anyway. In less than 20 days, it is possible that as ex-president, and of course he was ex-head of state before he became president. So as ex-head of state and ex-president, I'm sure that there will still be a few privileges that will be attached to him as an elder statesman, in that capacity. I'm not so sure that, though, if it will involve, practically going abroad for
dental checkup.
For dental checkup and stuff like that. I mean, we shouldn't trivialize, things about dental and everything, but that's what the president has chosen to do. For the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the thing that is a bit concerning about his own case is that, unlike the president, whom his handlers will say is staying back or is either traveling to rest or to seek medical assistance abroad, we don't get to hear that so much from the handlers of the president-elect. He came back 2 weeks ago, if you remember,
yes,
after more than 30 days in France, and couldn't go for Umrah as they had promised, and they couldn't be in the UK as they have promised. So people are a bit worried this time around to say that, can we even believe what you are saying for a president-elect to say that he's going to Europe on a working visit? Hey, Shaitan, where is Europe? You just came back from Great Britain, from England. It's specific. If you are going to travel to London, let's know you are in London. If you are going to France, because it reminds me of what people say about I'm going to Africa. Where are you going in Africa? Africa is not a country. It's a continent. Europe is a continent. Where are you going in Europe? Because you will have to, your plane will have to land somewhere, and then you have to be stamped inside a particular country. You won't be stamped into Europe. Is it London? Is it Paris? Is it Athens? Where in Europe? And what does it mean? So clarity.
Handlers need to be a lot more specific.
When you appear to be, to be convoluted, to be doctoring information, people begin to suspect. It gives room for suspicion. If the president-elect requires medical attention, say it. I mean, he's 71. We'll expect that there will be issues that he'll be dealing with. That won't mean that he's incapacitated or that he's not fit for the office. But at least be clear, be very open with people. If what they have said is the truth, that is meeting investors, will that be in private? Yes, I know that people have said that there can only be one president at a time. Yes, an incoming president, of course, can meet with investors. But then who are you meeting with? Is it in the power sector? Is it in the agri sector? Is it in oil and gas? Let's have an idea of those who are engaging with the president-elect at this time, so that by May 29, when you are going to start and hitting the ground running, people will know that, oh yeah, he did meet with so-and-so, in Paris. He did meet with so-and-so in the UK. Don't shroud things, in secrecy. It's important to be open to people. And I think that going forward, that is something important that the handlers of the president-elect
definitely owes that to Nigerians to be specific about the details of certain travel. Absolutely.
So we'll proceed. There was celebration at the government house in Osun State earlier this week after the Supreme Court upheld the election of Adeleke of People's Democratic Party as governor. It was a unanimous judgment and effectively sealed the defeat of former Governor Gboyega Oyetola and his All Progressives Congress party. Our Rice correspondent, Godfrey Eshomoge, was there and our report.
The race for the Osun State Government House has been a long-drawn legal battle, which was bound to end at the Supreme Court, with a 5-member panel headed by Justice John Okoro assigned the task of deciding the case. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Emmanuel Agim, the Apex Court held that Oyetola, the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress APC, failed to prove allegations of improper accreditation of voters and overvoting in 744 polling units across the 10 local government areas of the state. He added that the case lacked merit because of lack of verifiable evidence to establish the allegations. The Apex Court stated that to prove allegations of overvoting, the Form EC8A, BVAS, and voter register are required, items that were not presented by the appellant. It faulted the Osun State Election Petition Tribunal for failing to determine the preliminary objection against its jurisdiction on various issues, adding that it ended up denying respondents their right of fair hearing. The 5-member Apex Court panel further stated that the 2 witnesses brought by Oyetola and the APC did not help their case either, adding that their witness testimonies were merely hearsay evidence. Following the decision of the Supreme Court on the Osun governorship election case, counsels in the matter expressed relief.
You need the voters register, you need the EC8A, you need the difference about the 3 of them. They are the trinity that can prove overvoting. They must go together. So they must go together. So today we are very happy because it has thrown more light into the electoral jurisprudence and guidance for not only lawyers and judges, but for the Nigerian community, so that they can understand how the system works. The Supreme Court has, through this case, settled a lot of issues that will come before ongoing tribunals and courts. And that was why, as INEC, we tendered the BVAS machines for the first time in Nigeria. So that today, that is the way to go.
Celebrations by the Adeleke camp trailed the outcome of the case. Godfrey Eshamoge, Arise News.
Well, I mean, a lot of dancing out there in Osun State. I mean, it should be expected, given the fact that it's a dancing senator who's now a dancing governor. I think it's the judgment is emphatic. Not many people will have been surprised because this gentleman has been consistent in showing that for this election, I won, and I won convincingly. And you could gauge the mood, you know, of the entire Osun State, you know, almost, that it will have been a kind of robbery, you know, and injustice if the appeal court and the Supreme Court eventually, you know, had decided otherwise. And I like the fact that the APC have said, hey, you now have an opportunity, you know, to proceed and everything. It's intriguing, it's interesting. If you remember that 4 years ago, when Oyetola was voted in as governor, the margin was very small. And at that time, the former governor, Aregbesola, was still in the same camp with Oyetola, even though Oyetola, as we know, was not his choice. So Adeleke went to court, won at the tribunal level, but lost at the appeal court, you know, and the Supreme Court. Fast forward to 4 years later, Oyetola took him to the tribunal, won at the tribunal, just like Adeleke won, you know, 4 years ago. But of course, he lost at the appeal and the Supreme Court. So it's a kind of a deja vu of the same way that he couldn't get to office 4 years ago is now the same way that he has now been proclaimed as governor. I think this is important. Yes, he has now crossed all the legal hurdles. It is now for the Osun people to see what stuff Adeleke is made of. He's from an important family in Ede, in Osun State. His elder brother, you know, of course, Davido's father, you know, stupendously rich and very influential. And of course, a successful banker, economist, somebody who knows what it will require to turn Osun State around. Yes. And of course, we will expect that he will give the right counsel and guidance to his younger brother. If you listen to his acceptance, you know, his speech after the judgment, the first person that he expressed gratitude to, you know, was his elder brother. So a lot in stock for Osun people. Let's see that it's not just about dancing and jogging, you know, in the mornings and everything, and doing the, you know, the victory sign almost every time. What can he do? People have said that his first 100 days was spectacular. He cleared all the arrests,
all the and things like that.
Absolutely, and he seems to be putting things in order. I mean, you wouldn't say that Oyetola was a bad governor. Maybe his politics was not right. Maybe people voted not necessarily against him, but against what they perceived that he represented, and of course the Adegbeshola, factor. But hey, a new governor is there. PDP has demonstrated capacity in Osun State. We can only wish Governor Adeleke all the best, and that he should prove his critics wrong, that he's just a guy who likes to have fun. Show that you've got capacity and that you can turn the fortunes of Osun State around.
Definitely. Congratulations to him. And, just to, reasserting what you said, you could see residents on that VT. There are hundreds trooping onto the streets of Shogbo and Ede and other major towns in Osun State after, following the Supreme Court's affirmation of him as winner of the July 16 governorship election. And I was looking at this tweet here that Davido put out yesterday, and he said, we go shock them like high tension. I mean, definitely everybody was really looking forward to seeing what this the judgment was going to be. And this in itself, the reaction really just puts back the trust in the judicial system, the fact that they were able to see to the end. And like you've said, at this point, we are celebrating the win, but what is really important is what the next 4 years is going to mean for the people of Osun State. Well, congratulations to Governor Adeleke, who, of course, is probably in a really high spirits at the moment. But expectedly, Governor Adeleke, of course, seized the moment to commend the Supreme Court for validating his victory. He called the judgment historic and a landmark development in the history of Osun politics. At his country home in Ede shortly after the visit, Adeleke pledged that his administration would ramp up the implementation of its 5-point agenda and focus on grassroots development and infrastructure.
Government is people's government. They ain't seen nothing yet. We have a lot of goodies in stock for our lovely Osun people. Even though there was little distraction, we were focused. You journalists can testify to our 100 days in office. I mean, you have seen it all. You went with me, you worked with me, you saw what we have done. And work is still going, despite the fact of little distraction. Now there's no distraction again. We have all our agenda, our 5-point agenda in the making. You just wait and see. My message is that there's no winner, there's no vanquish. So everybody should come together now that everything is over now. Let's come together and work together and make us great again.
I thank God Almighty, because one with God is a majority. We thank God because from the onset, we have put our trust in the Lord. And I want to thank God that He did not put us to shame.
Not surprising, because it is expected, a judgment that is expected, because anybody that believes in the rule of law and equity, justice, will know that the judgment should go that way.
Top contenders for the position of the Speaker of the House of Representatives this week met with the APC National Chairman Abdullahi Adamu and members of the party's National Working Committee. The group, led by Deputy Speaker Idris Wase, is calling for a review of the zoning formula for the National Assembly presiding officers' positions. Here's the report.
Is arising from the zoning arrangement of the All Progressives Congress. The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Idris Wase, is leading 5 other top contenders for the speakership of the House to the APC headquarters in Abuja to call for a review. Those at the meeting include Yusuf Gagdi, Plateau State; Sani Jaji, Zamfara State; Mokhtar Betara, Borno State; and Sada Soli from Katsina State. Addressing the chairman, members of the NWC and journalists, Wase said the legislators feel betrayed and want the arrangement to be reviewed.
I have to talk to you in this manner, and I appeal to you, sir, and I appeal to the conscience of this great institution of our party to again revisit what they have done. Even though you have said it's not for close, but the attempts now and the sell out now is that this is a foreclosed matter because it is also in the social media. And I think it will not portend well. We do not want a repeat of what has happened in the past. We should not forget about the temporalization of what happened in the House of Representatives.
Yusuf Gagdi and Sada Soli came down hard on the party's leadership for not consulting widely before arriving at the controversial zoning formula, with some making claims that the issue of who becomes the Speaker of the House is a national security issue.
Sir, justice should be done. We are appealing because you are a father. If not, sir, because of the integrity of the members of the State Working Committee, the real language in our letter is that we are rejecting. We are rejecting what is in circulation. It is unacceptable to us. We are independent bodies, sir. National Assembly cannot be turned to be like a Federal Executive Council where you pick whosoever you want to pick for. It can't be run like that. When we will elect our leaders, all of you will not be there. It is we and the conscience and our covenant with the people of Nigeria that will be in the hallowed chamber.
Now the party is zoning the Deputy Senate President and the Speaker to the same zone. We've been in this assembly, sir. There's no time two presiding officers are zoned to one area. It has never happened.
Others told the chairman that it would be better if the members are allowed to consult among themselves and choose, instead of foisting Tajuddin Abbas as Speaker, who is not known to many members of the House.
The speakership is a national security issue. For those of us who know the history of National Assembly, I know what I'm talking about. So shine your eyes.
APC National Chairman Abdullahi Adamu is calling for calm while urging the members not to allow emotions to take center stage as the party is working hard to douse tension.
We did say very clearly that we will endeavor to do more consultations so that we can carry along with us the greater number of the members of this great party.
There are fears that with such unity among the top contenders for the House speakership, if the APC does not review their demands, they may team up with the opposition to present the Bukola Saraki scenario that happened in 2015. Ndi Amugo, Arise News.
In the meantime, some critical stakeholders within the All Progressives Congress have been speaking up against the party's zoning formula. Among those are chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum and Ondo State Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, who on Wednesday described the arrangement as brazenly skewed, unjust, and targeted against some zones and individuals. Some aspirants to the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives and several members-elect also warned APC's National Working Committee and other party stakeholders to prepare for a repeat of the 2015 scenario in the event that it decides to retain the zoning formula as it is. It should be recalled that some senators and House of Representatives members had in 2015 defied the ruling party's choices and elected their own independent candidate for principal positions in the two chambers of the National Assembly. Interesting development. Interesting, isn't it, within the APC? You know, it's interesting. It's rather dramatic that the party will, even while the 9th Assembly is still on, the 10th Assembly, all the schemings and everything is for the 10th Assembly, which won't be inaugurated until June. Do you understand? I don't understand why the APC, the ruling party, will now suddenly constitute itself as a zoning party. It might be in your constitution, it might be the customary thing that you're expected to do, but ideally, it's an indoor family affair thing, not a situation that you now come out several weeks to the inauguration of the 10th Assembly, and then you are saying openly that we have zoned the principal offices to this part, to this person, and everything. I mean, they've not even been inaugurated yet. So for me, it's It's rather untidy. And at the end of the day, why are they going through this problem? It's because you made a public show of something that ought to have been an internal, let people guess, let people, second guess you that how will this pan out? Now people are already threatened. People are now openly defying the party, threatening the party that if you do not make amends, what happened in 2015 when members elected, parliamentarians openly went against the decision of the party on zoning. If they're not careful, and I don't see why that can happen, because if you are, two things are clear here. If you are imposing unpopular candidates, seemingly, on the others, they will revolt, And then if there is no justice in the zonings that you have done, as it is obvious now, because what they are saying is you can't have the deputy Senate president that you have zoned to the northwest, and then the Speaker of the House of Representatives also to the northwest. Why you leave out, the north central and almost the southeast, So I think the concerns are germane. People should speak up. And even if the party refuses to listen, what the Constitution demands is that the senators and the House of Representatives members will elect their principal officers. It doesn't have to follow who has the majority or things like that. In any case, if you put all the numbers of non-APC House of Representatives members elect together, they are more than APC. PDP, Labour Party, ABGA, and NPP, they are more than the APC. And you have, if you're not careful, just like I think it was Wase that said it, you have a tambualization of the House of Representatives.
We will have a move that is reminiscent to what happened in 2015 when Bukola Saraki and Yakubu Dogara emerged as president of the Senate. But very quickly, I love the fact that, Governor...
House of Representatives.
I love the fact that this is happening now. I thought what would happen is, okay, now that they would have been able to recognize, we have 6 geopolitical zones in the country, and 2 have already been filled. So we're looking at 4 members left. I would have assumed that what the APC working committee would do would leave the members of those geopolitical zones to decide who they want to be, to fill in these positions, and then have an internal meeting to decide. But it almost seems as if these people have been anointed, and it's not necessarily that you're voting for them. It's just a formality. And when you have the North Central, for example, and the Southeast, who believe that they have been, or not who believe, who were very essential into, getting the votes that was needed for this particular party, it almost looks like they're left with the short end of the stick. And I understand why that would anger a lot of people.
Absolutely.
But, it's one of those things where we have to just wait and see what happens.
It pans out,
Let's move on to our next story now. A British university has postponed the return of more than 100 Benin Bronzes to Nigeria after a presidential decree named a royal ruler as the owner and custodian of all returned artifacts. The head of Museums and Monuments said this on Wednesday. Nigeria is on a quest to get thousands of intricate bronze sculptures and castings that were looted by British soldiers during a raid on the then separate Kingdom of Benin in 1897. But an official gazette signed by President Muhammadu Buhari on March 28th said the Oba of Benin was the rightful owner of all returned Benin bronzes and was responsible for the management of all places where the artifacts were kept. Abba Issa Tijani, the Director General of Nigeria's National Commission for Museums and Monuments, said the University of Cambridge Museum and Archaeology and Anthropology had planned to return 116 artifacts this month, but this was put on hold after the decree started circulating last month. The return of this the bronzes, the colonial loot that was passed on to a traditional ruler. When you think about it, when this announcement was made that that it was going to be returned, and then the decree now comes out, and we're looking at a pause. On the back end, I understand that we are trying to make sure that a lot of the stolen loot is recovered. But what I want people to focus on is the ones that we have now, that is currently in our custody, how are we taking care of those ones? How have we been able to use the arts and the culture that we still have in our custody to actually promote our culture and enlighten this generation to be able to use that to a certain advantage? And it's something that a lot of people don't think about, because we push for the return of certain looted items, but when it gets here, it's almost as if we forget about it. This is not the first time that something like this is happening. What are your thoughts on this decree, and even how important it is to the essence of what Nigeria is, especially when we look at it as a really strong culturally sound country?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, first and foremost, I do not agree that how we treat artifacts that are returned, artifacts that were looted from Nigeria and are returned to Nigeria, should be a basis for negotiating for the return of what rightfully belongs to us. No. That is the kind of argument that those who are holding part of our heritage against our will tend to use to model up the waters. No, it does not. They do not belong there. And they have kept them illegally for decades and centuries, if you like, making money from them. Because when people go to museum, people pay to see what is there. So the argument can be that if we return these artworks and artifacts to you, will you be able to keep them? That's a different argument. Let's deal with that. As important as that consideration might be, it shouldn't come from those who are holding the works illegally. Now, for the Benin Bronzes, there are two clear issues here. One is the fact that if we fail to tidy the situation at home, this is what you get, and we're giving an excuse to those who are holding on to what belongs to us illegally, to say that, oh, there's a law that has been gazetted by Nigeria, which gives the right of everything Benin coming from abroad to the custody of the Oba of Benin. As brilliant as it might sound when that gazette first came out, a lot of people knew that it would be problematic. Problematic because the second leg of the argument is the issue between the palace in Benin and the office of the governor over who should be in custody. Is it the Edo State government
or the traditional,
or the palace? Even when you say it's the palace, the argument that a lot of people were saying was that when these things were looted in those days, they were not just from the palace. Maybe a good chunk of them were taken from the palace, but everywhere in Benin and its environs, were full of artworks. There were families whose homes were like museums there, and all the works that were looted were not in the palace as at that time. And therefore, if those works will be returned, and you have families who can identify, those works, they have the history, they have the, they know what they represent. So if you now say that they will return, not everything should return to the palace. How do we know this? You have to get the state government involved. The federal government can't just say, oh, once they come, straight to the palace, straight to the royal museum. It might sound good, it might look like that will make you avoid troubles, but then you are creating more trouble. And that's the excuse that the Cambridge University is using to say that if there's a law that says everything must go to the palace, and we have individuals, families from Benin who are saying, no, there are some of our works there, and they can't go to the palace because they were not stolen from the palace.
Definitely. All right, then that's all on the week that was.